Begbie's stuff specifically on freedom and agency and using musical insights to get at certain problems and impasses in conversations about freedom and agency that have been kind of blocked or made more difficult by simply relying on visual and kind of ocular kind of metaphors, where we think of beings as kind of like containers of space that bump up into each other. So when we say that like being in relationship is what makes one free, right? A modern person is going to be like, what are you talking about? Right? The more someone else is involved with me or I'm involved with them, we're just going to bump up into each other. I'm less free the more I get involved with somebody else. It doesn't make any sense, right? We're kind of blocked by visual cues, you know, or in our way of processing what it means to be free or to be an agent, right? So someone like Begbie comes along and is like, well, what if we actually kind of take somebody like Paul, who wants us to kind of avoid the visual when because Paul, walk by faith, not by sight, because this thing that we're involved with is difficult. These relationships, this way of relating, what it means to be sort of a human in this reality, yeah, is uh, nearly impossible to grasp through visual metaphors and analogies. So let's bring in music. An example that comes to mind would be, let's say, talking about faith. Okay, there's a big debate about faith. Whose faith is it really that saves? Is it Christ's faith? Is it your faith? Those sorts of discussions. Is our faith actually important? Does it do anything? Blah, blah, blah. Um, so let's say that we've arrived at the position, which I think is the correct one, that the saving faith is Christ's faithfulness. That's saving, right? And then our faithfulness is a response to it. It resonates with that prior fidelity that Christ embodies through his life, his death, and his resurrection, right? There's a phenomenon in music called sympathetic resonance. Sympathetic resonance, where a good way to see this is actually if you open up the back of the piano, not a keyboard, an actual like piano. Open it up, there's strings in there, right? So let's say I play a middle C, and you can see the string is struck by a hammer in the actual piano, right? So I strike the note, string gets struck, right? What you'll notice is when you depress the key, strings some strings will sympathetically resonate even though they weren't directly struck by your finger or by a hammer inside of the piano. It's brought to life by a someone striking a note, a hammer striking a string that was done at a different point, right? But it still comes to life and resonates with that prior note that's been struck. Without that note, it's lifeless. The string is dead. It doesn't do anything, right? But once that note is struck and those upper strings are struck into resonance, they're free. They're free to be what they are. Without that initial note, they don't exist. They're not free to be what they are. But once that note's struck, they become free. And in fact, they become enhanced the more that note is actually struck. They become enhanced as individual sort of strings and they begin resonating with each other. It's this really fascinating phenomenon that happens. But you wouldn't be able to get that if you're purely thinking in visual ways about freedom and agency. But it changed my thinking about this so much. And it's like, oh gosh, I don't have to fall into these debates about like Arminianism versus Calvinism in the same sort of way that like have been so popular because there's just this different way through, and it's thinking in terms of sound and not by sight is the way that I would put it.